The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report with Dom and Charles, heading very, very close to our 6 millionth download.
What an it could even be this episode, Charles. It could be this episode. That's probably not.
Probably not, no.
But it could be.
It could be.
Particularly if the UAE start downloading it en masse because of the revelations that are about to be revealed in this episode.
Spicy.
Yes, it's going to be very, very exciting stuff going to come out.
So there's been a few people wondering how we'll know. On the last episode I said the 6 millionth downloader will win a fabulous prize.
And I noticed you very much didn't specify what that prize would be.
Yeah. And somebody pointed out that the way podcasting works, you have no idea who the 6 millionth downloader is because it's just like it's all anonymous.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's one of the whole flaws with podcasting.
I mean, odds on it will likely be one of the bots that we've set up to try and get to 6 million downloads. That have, no, we haven't.
No.
That would be a breach of our contract.
No, we haven't done that. But I think the point is that we should hand out a prize because it's a huge sort of, occasion.
It's a huge occasion. Well,
and I'm thinking, what about a novelty oversized check for $6 million?
Wow. Because the government's about to phase checks out. That'll be a collector's item.
Yeah, exactly.
No, your grandchildren won't know what it is.
You won't be able to bank it. Yeah, we'll post-date it to after they've been phased out.
That's good. Have you got any more of those giant inflatable avocados lying around too, Charles? Can we throw one of those in?
We've got a fucking shit ton of them, yeah.
That's probably where all the money is. Okay, so that's good.
So the process instead should be email us at podcast@chaser.com.au, and if you're the 6 millionth emailer, you will win that prize.
Right, or just convince us that it's you. I mean, basically...
that's better.
The older I get, Charles, the more I realise that basically the people who ask, people with no shame, people who get things in this world.
That's right.
The billionaires of this world, the Jeff Bezoses. So just make the case that you are the 6 millionth and we'll be convinced.
Yeah, I agree. And it's real. This is real.
We definitely will send you a crappy inflatable avocado that Charles couldn't sell.
And a
novelty check.
Novelty oversized check.
There's a big piece of plastic right next to you, Charles.
I'm thinking this is what we'll print it on.
Charles went and bought and then we decided we don't need anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can both sign it.
Yes.
It'll be not really a collector's edition. But, it'll be a thing that you can have if you really want it.
It's stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you can feel free to turn down the prize. Or maybe there's something else we can give you that's from the back catalogue. Maybe it's from one of the books.
Maybe you get a free download.
You have a free month of the premium podcast, although you can get a free month anyway just by signing up, I think, with Apple.
Okay.
Anyway, we've got an episode to get into instead of all the blathering, shall we?
Yes.
So, Charles, you know how there's a climate crisis? You're across
I hadn't heard about that.
God, this is going to be a long setup. Yeah, okay. So just assume, Charles, if you will, and many people would disagree with this, that there's a massive problem that's making global temperatures rise.
Yes.
And potentially an existential threat to humans,
yes.
particularly humans who live in low-lying areas, lots of species and so on. Imagine that there was some sort of body set up where humanity gets together to solve hard problems. Call it the United Nations, if you will.
Yes. Right, okay.
And ignore its legacy of not really doing much to solve the hard problems, but just having talk fests.
No, it does stuff. It invaded Iraq once.
Isn't it still on the border where the two Koreas meet, not having resolved that crisis for decades? I think the US forces are actually the UN army, aren't they? Anyway, the good news is that there's a whole process that the UN has run, all these climate summits, and they're called COP. No one quite knows while they're, I think it's, Conference of Parties or something. It's a completely unglamorous UN-esque name. But anyway, COP28 is the next climate summit. And gosh, it really has a lot on its plate. We really need it to get this right, because if we don't have a massive global agreement to do a huge amount to curb fossil fuels soon.
Yes.
I mean, we're already out of time, but we're going to be really out of time if we don't nail it this year.
And I remember, and that is such an important thing to say, because I remember that's exactly what they said about COP27 and COP26 and COP25 and COP24 and COP23.
You're going to do this all the way to COP what? Okay. So, but clearly it gets worse every time. It gets worse.
Yeah.
So you really want to have
really matters, this one.
Don't you feel though that this time You've got to, for instance, hold it in the right country.
Sorry, just imagine COP 6 million, what that'll be like.
Yeah, it'd probably take that long to do anything. That will be, what will happen is we will have been rendered extinct by the climate, and somewhere in the UN there'll be some dead computer running on solar power that just sends out meeting invitations forever to a COP conference that no one can attend.
But the irony will be it won't be run on renewable power. It'll be coal fuel still.
One little burner still going. Anyway, so my point being, Charles, for this year's summit, you've got to have it somewhere, for instance, where you're going to make a big difference. The location is so important to these things. So guess where? The November instalment, and I'm not making this up, of the UN Climate Summit is to be held.
So it's got to be somewhere symbolically important, like Tuvalu or Kiribati.
You could have it in Kiribati, right next to the ocean that's about to rise and sweep over the whole place.
Yeah, or it could be somewhere like Iceland,
somewhere pristine,
which is innovating on renewable energy. They have now carbon negative emissions.
That's amazing. That'd be a really good idea to reward them. Everyone will come and see what they can do.
Exactly.
Those are good options. It's going to be in Abu Dhabi is where it's going to be.
Right, the gas capital of the world.
And you also need, I guess, a president for a conference like this, someone to run it.
Oh, no.
Who's just going to do an amazing job.
Dom.
Charles, this is important. This is the Global Climate Summit.
It's the CEO of Shell, isn't it?
Almost.
What?
It's a gentleman by the name of Sultan Al Jaber. He's the UN conference president. And Charles, he's obviously not the CEO of Shell.
No.
Like, that'd be ridiculous.
No.
He's from the UAE, right?
Yeah, it would
So he's the head of the state oil firm. Of Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi National, I'm not making this up, the president of COP28, Sultan Al Jaber, is the chief executive of the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, or ADNOC.
But so the thing, all those irritating environmentalists who about 12 or 18 months ago started complaining about how COP had been taken over co-opted by fossil fuel interests.
I mean,
this is
one data point.
It's not even co-opted. It's like literally been bought out
this is the live
relocated.
Yeah, it's basically the COP is now.
Yeah. Now, fucking hell.
Okay. So Abu Dhabi's organising the next one.
Or is there an argument to say that, Abu Dhabi is climate curious? Like, are they sort of...
it is. It's actually true that if you want change to happen, I can see the argument that put it in a place that actually needs to change.
Yes.
And we know that these countries are trying to adapt to the post-oil world. We know that MBS, the bone saw butcher of Saudi Arabia, is trying to put windmills across the whole of North Africa. We talked about that in a previous episode. So these are the people who need to change.
It does just slightly feel a bit like sort of saying, you know what, let's have an anti-child molesting conference and let's get Rolf Harris to lead it, because, he needs to change.
That's the target market.
He needs to change. Is that the...
Somewhat. All right. So I mentioned that the chief executive of the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company is the president of the COP28 Climate Summit. Now, you would think, Charles, wouldn't you? I mean, you know about how to have different organisations. You, for years, have presided over,
Oh, yeah.
You've been the running various things at the same time.
El Presidente.
You've been running, Chaser Digital and various TV productions and touring. It's very important to have strong internal boundaries, isn't it, to make sure that, for instance, the part of your operation that is an oil company and the part of what you're doing that's a climate summit, that those are separate. Because you can understand how the oil company and the climate summit might have slightly different odds, slightly different objectives.
Yeah, that's...
Well, it turns out, Charles, that The Guardian reports that the state oil company has been able to read emails to and from the COP28 Climate Summit office and was consulted on how to respond to a media inquiry. In fact, it turns out that they're on the same server. They're actually just using the server. And the COP28 office claimed that it was a separate server, a standalone server. But actually, when they went and looked at all the IP data and so on, no. It was just the same server.
So did PwC consult on setting this whole thing up?
It's probably a PwC server that runs both accounts. And The Guardian just checked this out. So they emailed the COP28 office saying, can you just comment on the fact that you're sharing an email server, which we found out. The emails did not contain the term ADNOC, which is the oil company name, but the auto replies contain the text ADNOC classification : internal. So it's
brilliant.
exactly the same thing.
They weren't even bothering to try and hide it.
No, because that will take effort. And the French MEPs, because of course the French are upset about this, says it's an absolute scandal. An oil and gas company has found its way to the core of the organisation in charge of coordinating the phasing out of oil and gas.
Man.
It's like a tobacco multinational overseeing the internal work of the World Health Organisation.
It's just, there's nothing, like, what are we going to do?
Burn.
I mean, it's just, there's no point, is there?
The Guardian also revealed in April that the UAE has the third biggest plans of any country in the entire world to break net zero. They have massive numbers of new oil and gas fields that they're wanting to develop.
Yes, that's right. Well, because they're a bit late to the party on gas.
They're relatively late compared to the Saudis and so on. Yeah,
and
that's right.
And they've realised, they've got huge gas.
Got to get onto it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the point. I'm not going to go into further details about how they did this. So it's quite good work to detect that this all happened.
So what do you do? Clearly, that's a pointless organisation.
COP28.
Yeah.
Well, ADNOC seems quite good at its job, really.
Yeah. I mean, what do you do to? How do we? Like, what do we do?
Don't worry about it. We elected the Labor government, who's going to be full of plans for climate action. It's solved. It's solved.
Okay.
It's all fine. Okay. Trust Albo. That's the aim, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think Albo's going to go to this? He didn't bother going to the last climate summit, if I recall.
Well, actually, that probably turns out to show how good his judgment
Maybe
is.
He knew.
Yeah,
Maybe he knew.
The Chaser Report.
Now with extra whispers.
Okay.
I mean, we were supposed to do less depressing episodes.
Yes, that was a terribly depressing story. Can you just?
Do you want me to tell you about the story?
Can you give me something a little bit more optimistic?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
There's another study out here. This is from a couple of days ago, where this is from closer to home. You know, we don't do that sort of thing in Australia. We wouldn't do that. Where health officials asked university researchers to remove references about community concern in towns. Did you know there are towns in Australia contaminated with, inverted commas, forever chemicals?
Oh, this is the DuPont stuff, is it?
Yeah, in Williamtown and so on.
Yes.
All the chemicals that have leached off defence sites. I didn't know there were forever chemicals, Charles. That's new to me, that you can contaminate a place so badly that it's forever.
Yeah.
And so basically the Department of Health sent the report around at the same time as Defence was in court defending a class action over these toxins in Williamtown, and just blotted out cut out the references to community concerns because they didn't want to alarm people.
That's good. That is good. That's happy. Because
it's nice. It's nice that people aren't getting alarmed about a term like forever chemicals.
They're protecting us from having to worry about things that you can't do anything about.
Can't
it's a bit like climate change.
Yeah.
What should actually happen? The actual solution should be we apply what the Defence Department did by just sort of just completely obliterating any knowledge of it to climate change. We should just stop talking about it.
Yeah.
And then
if we keep talking about it, the people will keep having concerns.
Yeah, but actually the way to reduce anxiety is through ignorance.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. No, let's never talk about this again. Delete this episode from the servers.
Yes.
It never happened. And I know just the people who will pay us to do that.
Oh, yeah.
They're an oil company in Abu Dhabi. I think they're not very good at IT. They're not very good at setting up separate email servers, but they're quite good at obfuscating and concealing. So, yeah. Should we go to the climate summit? Should we do a podcast trip to Abu Dhabi? You know what? We should actually apply for funding to cover it as a media. See if they'll pay us.
We should totally get on the grift.
They'll pay us.
Look, if you're you might, because I assume they've got good air conditioning over there.
They would have, in Abu Dhabi, absolutely.
They'd be fine.
It'd be hell without it. They can't have a climate summit without aircon.
No, exactly. I reckon we do that. We do that. We go over there, we get on the grift, and then we start doing sponsored ads for this podcast. So it'll be things like, oh, hi, this is Charles from The Chaser, and with me is Dom, and today we're talking about climate change. What a myth.
Yeah, we're not talking about it because it's lies. It's all lies. Yeah. Oh, that's good. They've been waging, apparently, the Financial Times reports a major. Let's actually look at what they've been doing briefly, because I've just done some quick research.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
This is from the Financial Times in the UK. There's multi-million-dollar sponsorships available if you want them. They've been pitching for packages to If you want to greenwash yourself, you can go and buy a package in their pavilion.
Right.
They've had difficulty getting communications agencies to come on board. International communications agencies are just refusing to work with them because it's
they don't want
embarrassing.
To be chopped up into small pieces.
Yeah, or just because the whole thing where the oil company is the same as the COP28. They've hired a former aide to Boris Johnson to provide strategic advice, so that's pretty good.
And integrity advice, is it?
And also, an academic who's an expert in this has identified at least 100 fake Twitter accounts, which is trying to astroturf to promote how great UAE foreign policy is, and their environmental record is very positive. So they're paying for fake bots. Maybe they'll pay for fake podcasts endorsing how great they are.
Okay.
Isn't that wonderful?
That's great.
There's lots of money up for grabs.
Our gear is from Abu Dhabi Petroleum and Gas Corporation, and we are part of the MBS Killing Journalists Network.
See you in Abu Dhabi. It's going to be a blast.
It's going to be great.